They're after us. Please save my child. She begged the Hell's Angels, unaware one of them knew everything. If you believe in second chances and unexpected heroes, hit that like button and tell me in the comments what you would do. Your support keeps these stories alive. She burst through the bar doors, clutching her terrified son, blood on her hands and desperation in her eyes. The Hell's Angels turned as one. They're after us. Please save my child, she begged. But no one imagined what would come next. The Desert Rose Bar sat on the edge of Barstow, California, a weathered place where secrets lived and questions died. Inside, smoke hung thick, whiskey flowed cheap, and men who lived outside the law found refuge. Jake Phantom Morrison sat at the far end, back to the wall, always to the wall. At 43, his face told stories of hard years, a scar above his left eyebrow, days-old stubble, eyes like storm clouds. His leather vest bore the Hell's Angels patch, earned through blood and silence. He nursed whiskey, watching the door with instinct born from too many years looking over his shoulder. Around him his brothers laughed, Reaper, Diesel, Mad Dog, and 5 others. They trusted Jake. They followed him. They had no idea who he really was. The door exploded open. A woman stumbled inside, blonde hair matted with blood, white blouse torn. In her arms a small boy, 7 years old, trembled like a leaf in a hurricane. The bar fell silent. Every hand moved toward a weapon. Please, her voice cracked with terror. They're after us. They're going to kill us. Please save my child. She collapsed to her knees, the boy clinging to her. Blood dripped from a cut above her temple. Her blue eyes swept the room and landed on Jake. Something in her gaze struck him like a fist to the gut. Jake rose slowly, setting his glass down. His brothers parted as he approached. He knelt before her, seeing bruises on her arms, scratches on her neck. Fresh, violent. Who's after you? His voice was low, carrying authority. I don't know their names, she gasped, tears streaming. They work for someone powerful. They killed my husband 2 weeks ago, made it look like an accident, but I know it wasn't. Now they want us dead too. They said we know too much. Jake's jaw tightened. Know too much about what? She shook her head frantically. I can't. If I tell you you're in danger, I just need somewhere safe. Please, I'm begging you. The boy lifted his head, brown eyes wide with fear. Mommy's scared. The bad men hurt Daddy. Jake's chest constricted. The boy couldn't have been older than 7. A Spider-Man backpack hung from his shoulders, innocent, vulnerable, terrified. Behind him, Reaper spoke. Boss, we don't know these people. Could be a setup. Jake didn't look back. What's your name? Sarah Mitchell. This is Danny. Sarah Mitchell. Jake tested the name, searching his memory. Nothing, but the fear in her eyes was real. The blood was real. The boy was real. He stood, turning to his brothers. We protect them tonight. Jake? Diesel started. I said we protect them. Steel in his voice, final. The room tensed for 3 heartbeats. Then Reaper nodded. Lock the doors. Nobody gets in. Jake led them to a back room. A couch, blankets, a lamp. Private. Safe. Danny climbed onto the couch, backpack still on. Sarah sat beside him. It's okay, baby. We're okay now. Jake stood in the doorway, mind racing. He should feel nothing. He'd seen desperate people before, turned away pleas for help. That was survival, but something was wrong, very wrong. The way she'd described her husband's death made it look like an accident. That meant professionals, organization. His blood turned to ice. It couldn't be. Not after all these years. Sarah's voice stopped him. Why are you helping us? You don't know us. Jake paused. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then, without turning, because nobody deserves to run forever, especially not a kid, he walked away before she could see the darkness on his face. In the main bar, Reaper waited. What's going on? Jake poured whiskey, hand steady, despite the storm inside. Post-sentries, 2-hour rotations. You think they'll come? I think whoever's chasing her doesn't give up easy. And if they come, Jake's eyes were hard. Then we remind them why people fear the Hell's Angels. But even as his brothers dispersed, Jake knew the truth. He knew who was after Sarah Mitchell. He knew why her husband had died, and God help him, he should have let her walk back out that door, because the people hunting her were ghosts from a life Jake had buried 6 years ago, a life he'd sworn never to revisit, a life that had just walked back in, holding the hand of a terrified 7-year-old boy. Outside, thunder rumbled, the storm was coming, the night stretched tense. Jake positioned himself near the back room, a guardian between Sarah, Danny, and the door. His brothers rotated sentry duty, motorcycles arranged defensively outside. Around 2 a.m., Jake entered with a first aid kit. Sarah was awake, Danny asleep in her lap. She'd cleaned the blood, but the cut needed attention. "Let me," Jake said quietly, kneeling. As he bandaged her wound, she studied his face. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect? Criminals who'd turn us away." "We are dangerous men. Don't mistake kindness for weakness." "I'm just grateful." She paused. "What should I call you?" "Phantom. That's not your real name. It's the only one that matters." Sarah was quiet. Then, "My husband was Tommy, a systems analyst. 2 weeks ago, he came home terrified. Said he'd found something at work, something illegal. Money laundering, he thought. He copied files, evidence, was going to the police." Jake's hands stilled. "Did he?" "He never got the chance. That night his car went off a bridge. They said he was drunk, but Tommy never drank and drove. Never. Tears spilled. Then they came for us. 2 men broke into our house yesterday. We barely escaped. These files, do you have them?" Sarah pulled out a small USB drive. "Everything's here. I'm afraid to look." Jake stared at it. Small, innocent, deadly. He knew exactly what was on it. "Give it to me." "What? No?" "Sarah, if they find you with that, you and Danny are dead. Let me secure it." She searched his eyes. Finally, reluctantly, she placed it in his palm. "Please don't betray us." "I won't." As Jake stood, Danny stirred. "Mommy?" "I'm here, baby." Danny's gaze found Jake. "Are you a good guy or a bad guy?" The question hit hard. He crouched down. "I'm a guy who's going to make sure nothing bad happens to you or your mom." "Good enough?" Danny considered this seriously, then nodded. "Okay, you look scary, but you seem nice." Despite everything, Jake's mouth twitched. "Scary's the point, kid. My daddy was nice. He read me stories." Danny's voice dropped. "I miss him." Jake's throat tightened. "I bet he misses you too." He left before his composure cracked. Diesel was waiting. "We got company." Jake went rigid. "Where?" 2 SUVs, blacked out, circling the block. Jake moved to the window. A black Escalade cruised past, slow and deliberate, professional. They'd found her. "Wake everyone, get Sarah and the boy ready to move." Jake made a call. A gruff voice answered. "This better be life or death." "Gunner, I need the safe house in Victorville, tonight." Silence. "What kind of heat?" "The kind that doesn't leave witnesses." "Shit. Okay, keys are in the usual spot." Jake turned to Diesel. "We leave in 10. Reaper leads escort. I take the boy." Sarah appeared, Danny's hand in hers. "We need to leave. You ride with Diesel. Danny rides with me." "No, I'm not letting Danny out of my sight." Jake met her fierce gaze, a mother willing to fight the world. He respected that. "Okay, but if something happens to me, you're still with your son. If something happens to you, just a precaution." 10 minutes later, motorcycles roared to life. Jake secured Danny in front of him. "Ever been on a motorcycle?" "No," Danny whispered, fear and excitement mixed. "First time for everything." "Hold on and trust me." "Roll out." Reaper's voice cut the night. 8 motorcycles tore from the lot. Jake positioned himself mid-pack. Danny pressed against his chest. 3 miles out, the first SUV appeared in his mirrors, then the second. "We got tails!" Mad Dog crackled over comms. "Stay in formation, don't engage unless they shoot first." The Escalades accelerated, closing with terrifying speed. Professional, armed, hunting. "Danny, close your eyes and hold on tight. Don't let go no matter what you hear." "I'm scared." "I know, but I've got you. I promise." The first shot cracked the night. Sparks flew near Reaper's bike. "Return fire!" The desert exploded with violence. But as chaos descended, Jake saw something that froze his blood. The lead driver. Even in darkness, Jake recognized him. Marcus Viper Chen, former colleague, former friend, former partner from Jake's days as an undercover federal agent in the very organization now hunting Sarah. If Viper was here, Jake's cover was about to be blown wide open. The storm had arrived, and there was no outrunning it. Bullets tore through the night. Jake swerved hard, his bike leaning 45 degrees, Danny's scream swallowed by engine roar and gunfire, the boy's hands locked onto handlebars, knuckles white. "Stay low!" Jake shouted. Diesel and Sarah veered left, splitting the convoy. Reaper returned fire. 3 shots shattering the lead Escalade's windshield. The vehicle swerved but didn't slow. "We can't outrun them!" Mad Dog's voice crackled. "We don't need to outrun them. Take the Calico exit. There's an old mining road. Narrow. They can't follow." The convoy banked hard, engines screaming at 70 miles per hour. The Escalades followed, superior horsepower closing the gap. Bullets pinged off Reaper's exhaust, shattered Mad Dog's mirror. Jake's jaw clenched. Someone was going to die. Then he saw it, the access road barely visible, a dirt path winding between rocky outcroppings. "There! Follow me!" The motorcycles peeled onto dirt, kicking up dust clouds. The Escalades tried to follow, but scraped against rocks with a metal shriek. Forced to slow, but they weren't giving up. Doors flew open. 8 men emerged with assault rifles. "Keep moving! Don't stop!" The convoy disappeared into winding darkness. Behind, muzzle flashes lit up like lightning, but distance was growing. 20 minutes later, they arrived at the safe house, a weathered ranch in Victorville, surrounded by chain link and desert scrub, isolated, defensible, off-grid. Jake helped Danny dismount. The boy's legs nearly buckled. Sarah rushed to her son, pulling him into desperate embrace. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay, Mommy," Danny whispered, trembling. Jake surveyed his brothers. Reaper had a shoulder graze. Mad Dog's bike was damaged, but everyone was alive. Inside, now. The safe house was Spartan. Basic furniture, boarded windows, reinforced doors, a weapons cache in the basement. No paper trail. Jake led Sarah and Danny to a bedroom. "You'll be safe tonight. Try to rest." Sarah's eyes blazed. "Rest? Those men almost killed us. They won't find this place." "How can you be sure?" Jake pulled out the USB drive. "I need to see what's on this. Now. These files are why you almost died. If I know what's on them, I can keep you alive." Sarah's anger deflated. She sank onto the bed, Danny curling beside her. "I want this over. I want my son safe." "I'll make that happen." Jake left them. Reaper was bandaging his shoulder. Who were those guys? Private contractors. Assassins, basically. And the woman? Her husband stumbled onto something that could bring down powerful people. Reaper's eyes narrowed. "You know more than you're saying. I know enough to keep us alive." "Not good enough, Jake. We're bleeding for these people. You deserve to trust me. Have I ever led you wrong?" Silence. Finally, Reaper nodded. "No. Then trust me now." Jake took the drive to the back office, fired up the computer, and inserted it. Files populated the screen, spreadsheets, emails, documents. With each file, the knot in his stomach tightened. Transaction records, shell companies, offshore accounts, names, and at the center, Sentinel Global Solutions, the very corporation Jake had infiltrated 6 years ago as an undercover federal agent. The mission that nearly killed him. That ended with 12 arrests, 3 deaths, and Jake being extracted with a new identity and a promise he'd never look back. But Tommy Mitchell had found something Jake missed. A surviving network. Deeper, darker. Jake sat back, mind reeling. If he helped Sarah, he'd have to reveal who he was, step back into the life he'd abandoned. Become Jake Morrison again. Not Phantom, but Special Agent Morrison. A man supposed to be dead. A soft knock. Sarah stood in the doorway. "Did you find something?" Jake looked at her. This woman who'd lost everything, fighting for her son's life. He thought about Danny, 7 years old, innocent, terrified, orphaned. He thought about Viper, his former partner, now hunting them. "Yeah, I found something. Is it bad?" Worse than bad, but I think I know how to fix it. How? Thunder rumbled outside. Rain began pattering the roof. Tell me something, Sarah. When you walked into that bar, did you know what we were? I knew you were Hell's Angels. Dangerous. But I also knew that sometimes dangerous men are the only ones who can stand against other dangerous men. Smart woman. Desperate woman. Jake stood, moving to the window. There's something you need to know about me. Something nobody knows. Sarah tensed. What? Jake turned, making his choice. The choice that would change everything. 6 years ago, I wasn't Phantom. I worked for the government. I infiltrated the very people who killed your husband. Sarah's eyes widened. Your FBI? I was. Officially, I died in the line of duty. The man I was doesn't exist anymore. But your husband found what I missed, and the people I thought I'd destroyed are back. They sent someone I know to hunt you. The driver, you recognized him. Marcus Chen, codename Viper, my partner, my friend, until the operation went sideways and I had to disappear. If he saw me tonight, and I think he did, he knows I'm alive. Sarah's hand shook. What does this mean? It means I can't just hide you. I have to end this by doing something I swore I'd never do again. Jake's voice was heavy. I'm going to contact my former handler, step back into the light, use your husband's evidence to finish what I started. And if they don't help, then I finish it my way. And trust me, that's not something Sentinel will survive. Sarah stepped closer. Why risk everything for us? Jake looked toward the bedroom where Danny slept, because that kid deserves better than running, and 6 years ago, I failed to protect someone. I won't fail again. Sarah squeezed his hand. Thank you. Jake nodded, gently pulling away. Get some rest. Tomorrow everything changes. Alone, Jake pulled out a phone he hadn't used in 6 years. He typed, Lazarus Protocol, need immediate extraction, Sentinel network active, critical intel in hand. He hesitated, finger hovering over send. This meant resurrecting a dead man, abandoning the Brotherhood, facing Viper, but it meant saving Sarah and Danny, finishing what he'd started. Jake pressed send. The storm raged outside. Inside, Jake Phantom Morrison, Special Agent Jake Morrison, waited for ghosts to answer. Dawn broke over Victorville, painting the desert in shades of gold and blood. Jake hadn't slept. He'd spent the night monitoring the perimeter, checking the encrypted phone every 5 minutes, and reviewing Tommy Mitchell's files until his eyes burned. The evidence was devastating. Sentinel Global Solutions hadn't just survived Jake's operation 6 years ago. They'd evolved. The files showed a network of corrupt officials, money laundering operations spanning 12 countries, arms deals with terrorist organizations, and something worse, a list of witnesses and informants who'd been systematically eliminated. Tommy Mitchell's name was on that list. So was Sarah's. So was Danny's. And at the bottom, in red, Phantom, status unknown, priority elimination if confirmed alive. They knew, or at least they suspected. A soft chime from the phone made Jake's heart skip. A response. Lazarus confirmed. Handler Blackwood en route. ETA. 0800 hours. Maintain position. Do not engage targets. Jake checked his watch. 6:47 a.m. Blackwood would arrive in 73 minutes. 73 minutes to decide if he was making the right choice. Behind him, footsteps. Sarah emerged from the bedroom, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep, probably both. Danny was still asleep, curled up with his Spider-Man backpack as a pillow. Any word? She asked quietly. My former handler is coming. We'll have federal protection by 9. Relief flooded her face. Thank God. So it's over. Not yet, but we're getting there. Sarah moved to the window, peering through the boards at the empty desert. I keep thinking about Tommy. How scared he must have been. How alone. Her voice cracked. He tried to do the right thing, and they killed him for it. Jake stood beside her. He was brave, braver than most, and because of him, we can finish this. Will they go to prison? The people who did this? If I have anything to say about it, yes. And if the FBI doesn't care, if they decide it's not worth pursuing, Jake's jaw tightened. Then I handle it differently. Sarah looked at him, really looked at him, seeing past the leather and scars to the man underneath. You're a good person, Jake. Or Phantom, whoever you are. I'm not good. I've done things. You're protecting a stranger and her child. You risked your life, your brother's lives. That's good in my book. Before Jake could respond, Reaper burst through the door. We got movement, half-mile out, 3 vehicles approaching fast. Jake's blood ran cold. Blackwood isn't due for another hour. Then who the hell is this? Jake grabbed binoculars and moved to the front window. Through the magnification he saw them, 2 black Escalades and a grey sedan, kicking up dust as they closed the distance. And in the lead vehicle's driver's seat, Viper. Shit, they found us. Jake's mind raced. How many? Looks like 12, maybe 15. And we have? 8 of us, limited ammo. Reaper's expression was grim. We can't win this fight, Phantom. We don't have to win. We just have to survive for 1 hour. Jake turned to Sarah. Wake Danny. Get to the basement. There's a reinforced room down there. Used to be a panic room. Lock yourselves in and don't come out until I get you. Jake, now, Sarah! She ran. Jake turned to his brothers who'd gathered in the living room, armed and ready. Listen up, these aren't random thugs. They're professionals with superior numbers and firepower. Our only advantage is this building and the fact that they want someone inside alive. Otherwise, they'd just burn us out. So what's the play? Diesel asked. We make them pay for every inch. Slow them down. Reinforcements are coming. What reinforcements? The kind with badges and federal authority. But they're an hour out. Can you hold for an hour? His brothers exchanged glances. Then, one by one, they nodded. Ride or die, Phantom, Reaper said. That's the code. Jake felt something crack inside his chest. Gratitude, respect, shame for the secrets he'd kept. You're good men. Better than I deserve. Save the sentiment for when we survive this, Mad Dog growled. Where do you want us? Jake quickly assigned positions, Reaper and Diesel upstairs with rifles, Mad Dog and Tiny on the ground floor, covering windows. The others spread throughout to provide crossfire and backup. The vehicles stopped 200 yards out, just beyond effective range. Doors opened, men emerged, dressed in tactical gear carrying assault rifles. And then, from the grey sedan, stepped Viper. Even at this distance, Jake recognized his walk, his posture. They'd trained together, fought together, nearly died together. And now they were on opposite sides of a war Jake thought he'd already won. Viper raised a megaphone. Phantom, I know you're in there. I saw you last night. Jake's brothers tensed, confusion flickering across their faces. Phantom? How did these people know that name? We don't want your biker friends, Viper continued. We want the woman and the boy. And we want you. Send them out. And your brothers live. You have my word. His word ain't worth shit, Reaper muttered. Jake knew he was right. But he also knew Viper, knew how he thought, knew he'd been sent here not just to eliminate witnesses, but to confirm whether Jake Morrison was truly alive. Jake grabbed his own megaphone, positioned himself behind cover and responded, You know I can't do that, Marcus. Silence, then. So it is you. After all these years. We thought you were dead. I was. You made sure of that. Not me, brother. I wasn't part of the decision to burn the safe house. I tried to stop it. Yet here you are, working for the same people who tried to kill me. People change, Jake. Loyalties shift. You of all people should understand that. You're wearing a Hell's Angels patch now. Touché. What do you want, Marcus? You know what I want. The USB drive, the woman, the kid, and you, dead or alive. Preferably alive so we can have a conversation about where you've been. Not happening. Then we come in and take them. And a lot of good men die. Your men. Is that really what you want? Jake looked at his brothers, positioned throughout the building, ready to fight and die for a cause they didn't fully understand. Ready to trust him, even when nothing made sense. You're right, Jake said into the megaphone. A lot of good men might die today, but they won't be mine. He dropped the megaphone and barked orders. Light them up. The desert rose, erupted in gunfire. The battle was chaos incarnate. Bullets punched through walls, shattered windows, chewed up furniture. Viper's team advanced in disciplined formation, using vehicles for cover, suppressing fire to pin Jake's brothers down. But the Hells Angels weren't soldiers, they were fighters. Brawlers who'd learned combat in alleys and bar fights, who fought dirty and without rules. Reaper's rifle barked from upstairs, dropping one attacker. Diesel threw a Molotov cocktail that engulfed an Escalade in flames. Mad Dog's shotgun boomed, forcing 3 men to dive for cover. But they were outnumbered, outgunned, and slowly being overwhelmed. Jake moved through the building like a ghost, his namesake, firing precise shots, repositioning, covering his brothers. His FBI training merged with 6 years of outlaw life, making him deadly. He dropped 2 attackers trying to flank through the kitchen, helped Tiny reload when his hands shook from adrenaline, pulled Diesel back when he tried a suicidal charge. But for every attacker they stopped, 2 more advanced. 20 minutes into the fight, Jake checked his watch. 40 minutes until Blackwood arrived. They had to hold. Then he heard it, a different sound, an engine. Coming from behind the house. Jake sprinted to the back window, and his heart sank. A 4th vehicle, 5 more men. They'd been flanked. "Reaper! Back door!" But it was too late. The door exploded inward, blown off its hinges. 3 men poured through, weapons raised. Jake fired, dropping the first. The second returned fire, bullets stitching across Jake's left arm. Pain exploded, hot and bright, but he didn't stop. Dropped the second man. The third got off 2 shots before Reaper appeared and put him down. "You're hit," Reaper shouted. "I'm fine." Jake wasn't fine. Blood soaked his sleeve, but there was no time. "Hold this position!" He ran toward the basement stairs. If they'd breached the back, they might know about the panic room, might know Sarah and Danny were down there. Jake descended into darkness, following the narrow corridor to the reinforced door. He pounded twice. "Sarah! It's me!" Locks clicked. The door opened a crack. Sarah's terrified face appeared. "What's happening?" "We're holding, but..." An explosion upstairs shook the entire building. Dust rained from the ceiling. Screams. Gunfire intensified. "They're pushing hard," Jake said. "I need you to..." A voice from the top of the stairs. "Clear!" Jake spun, raising his weapon. Too late. A man in tactical gear appeared. Rifle aimed directly at Jake's chest. Time seemed to slow. Jake saw the finger tightening on the trigger, saw death coming. Then Danny screamed, "No!" The 7-year-old burst past his mother, past Jake, and threw himself at the attacker's legs. The rifle jerked upward as the man stumbled. The shot went high, punching harmlessly into the ceiling. Jake didn't hesitate. 3 shots, center mass. The attacker dropped, but more were coming. Jake could hear boots on the stairs. "Sarah, take Danny and run." There's a tunnel in the back of the panic room, leads to an old mine shaft about 50 yards out. Go. "What about you?" "I'll buy you time. Go." Sarah grabbed Danny, who was crying now, traumatized by what he'd just done. They disappeared into the panic room. Jake positioned himself at the corridor's choke point. 3 more attackers appeared at the top of the stairs. Jake emptied his magazine, forcing them back, reloaded. His arms screamed in protest, blood making his grip slippery. This was it, his last stand, like the operation 6 years ago when everything went wrong and he barely escaped. But this time, he wasn't running. This time, he was protecting something worth dying for. The attackers tried again, using flashbangs. Jake fired blind through the smoke and chaos, dropped 1, maybe 2, lost count. His slide locked back, empty. He reached for his backup piece. A figure emerged from the smoke. Viper. They stared at each other across 10 feet of corpse-strewn corridor. Old partners turned enemies. "It didn't have to be this way," Viper said, weapon aimed at Jake's head. "Yes, it did. The moment you chose them over what's right." "Right," Viper laughed bitterly. "You still believe in that? After everything? The agency burned us, Jake. Left us to die. These people pay better and don't pretend to be heroes. They murder children. Collateral damage. That kid and his mother saw too much. That kid is 7 years old enough to testify." Jake's finger tightened on his trigger. "I can't let you hurt them, and I can't let you stop us." They fired simultaneously. Jake felt the impact in his chest, right side below his ribs, stumbled backward. His own shot caught Viper in the shoulder, spinning him. Both men dropped to their knees, bleeding, weapons raised. "You always were stubborn," Viper gasped. "You always were a traitor," Jake replied. Before either could fire again, the building shook with new explosions. But these were different, controlled, tactical. And then Jake heard the most beautiful sound in the world. "FBI, drop your weapons!" Federal agents swarmed through the building, dozens of them, overwhelming Viper's remaining team. Blackwood had arrived early. Viper's eyes widened. "You called them. You actually—" He coughed blood. "You destroyed your own cover." "Some things matter more than cover," Jake said, vision blurring. Agents surrounded them. Jake felt hands on him, pressure on his wounds, voices shouting for medical. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Blackwood's weathered face leaning over him. "You always did have terrible timing, Morrison, but damn good instincts." Then nothing. Jake woke in a hospital, sunlight streaming through windows, the beep of monitors a steady rhythm. His chest and arm were wrapped in bandages. An IV dripped clear fluid into his veins, and beside his bed, in a plastic chair, sat Danny. The boy looked up from a coloring book. "You're awake, Mommy! He's awake!" Sarah rushed in from the hallway, relief flooding her face. "Oh, thank God! The doctor said you'd be okay, but—" She stopped, composing herself. "Thank you for everything." Jake's throat was dry. "Viper! In custody," a new voice said. Blackwood entered, looking exactly as Jake remembered. Grey hair, sharp eyes, permanent scowl, along with 14 of his associates. The rest didn't make it. "My brothers? 2 injuries, non-critical. They're being debriefed." Reluctantly, Blackwood pulled up a chair. "You made quite a mess, Morrison." "Had to. They were going to kill a child." "Yes, about that." Blackwood glanced at Sarah and Danny. "Mrs. Mitchell, your husband's files were the break we needed. We've arrested 23 individuals so far, including 2 senators and a federal judge. Sentinel Global Solutions is finished." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Tommy didn't die for nothing." "No, ma'am. He was a hero, and we'll make sure the world knows it." Danny tugged his mother's hand. "Can we go home now?" Sarah looked at Blackwood, who nodded. "You're under federal protection until the trials are over. But yes, you can go home." After they left, Sarah squeezing Jake's hand one last time, Danny giving him a picture he'd colored of a motorcycle, Blackwood turned serious. "Now the hard part. You're officially alive again, which means you have decisions to make, such as, the Hells Angels think you're a hero. They don't know you're FBI. When they find out, they'll feel betrayed. I know. We can relocate you, new identity, new life, again." Jake stared at the ceiling, thinking about his brothers. Reaper, who'd taken a bullet for him. Diesel, who'd followed him into hell without question. Mad Dog, Tiny, all of them. "No more running," Jake said quietly. "I'm done with lies. They might kill you, maybe, but I owe them the truth." Blackwood sighed. "You always were the stubborn one." He stood. "For what it's worth, Morrison, you did good. Saved lives, brought down a criminal empire. That counts for something. Does it? In my book, yeah." 3 days later, Jake was discharged, against medical advice, but he'd never been good at following advice. He rode, borrowed motorcycle, his own having been destroyed in the firefight, back to the Desert Rose Bar. His brothers were there, waiting. The moment Jake walked through the door, the room fell silent. Reaper spoke first. "The feds came by, asked a lot of questions, made some interesting statements about our president." Jake nodded slowly. "I can explain. You're a federal agent, not a question, a statement. I was 6 years ago. Undercover operation that went bad. They faked my death, gave me a new identity. I became Phantom because I had nowhere else to go. And you didn't tell us." Mad Dog's voice was cold. "I couldn't. The operation was classified. If anyone knew, we trusted you." Diesel slammed his fist on the bar. "We rode with you. We bled for you." "I know, and I'm sorry. I never meant—" "Sorry?" Reaper stood, his face unreadable. You infiltrated us, used us. No, I rode with you because I wanted to, because after everything I'd lost, you gave me a brotherhood, a purpose. That was real, was it? Or were you just playing a role? Jake met Reaper's eyes. When I took that bullet for the kid, was that a role? When I stood with you against 15 armed men, was that fake? I may have lied about my past, but I never lied about my loyalty to this club. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Reaper moved forward, stopping inches from Jake. You should have told us. I know. We could have helped. I know. And if you ever lie to us again, I won't. I'm done with lies. Done with running. This is who I am. Jake Morrison, former FBI agent, current Hell's Angel. If you'll still have me. Reaper studied him for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly he extended his hand. Ride or die, brother. That's the code, even when the ride's complicated. Jake shook it, relief and gratitude overwhelming him. One by one his other brothers approached, some reluctant, some angry, but all offering hands, offering a second chance. Later that night, Jake sat alone at the bar, nursing a whiskey. The TV played news coverage. Major criminal organization dismantled, federal agents credit anonymous tip, families of victims seeking justice. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Danny wanted me to tell you thank you. He drew you another picture. We're home. We're safe. We're healing. Because of you. Attached was a photo of a crayon drawing, a man on a motorcycle, a woman and child holding hands, and above them, the sun shining bright. Jake smiled. 6 years ago, he'd lost everything. Lost his identity, his purpose, his sense of right and wrong. But in saving a desperate woman and her terrified child, he'd found something he thought was gone forever. Redemption. The door opened behind him. Reaper sat down, ordered 2 beers. So what now, Morrison? Or should I call you Phantom? Phantom works. That part was always real. Fair enough. Reaper raised his beer. To the complicated ride. To brotherhood, Jake countered. However we find it. They drank, 2 men from different worlds, bound by the same code. Protect those who can't protect themselves, stand with those who stand with you, and never, ever give up. Outside, thunder rumbled. Not a storm this time, but motorcycles. The club was rolling out for a night ride.